In this video, I am going to show you how to put the pockets on the inside of your 20 strip tote. So there are the pockets right there. And I'm also going to show you how to put the binding on the top. So to start that, you should have finished making the bag body. So this is the lower part of the bag body, and this end are the upper parts of the bag body. You should have zigzag stitched all of your strips together, and then you're going to bind the raw edges of your lower bag body and zigzag stitch the upper bag body to the lower bag body on those bound edges. The next thing that you're going to do is you are going to bind the raw edges, the two sides, and you're simply going to sew a binding on the outside and then flip it to the inside and stitch very close to that fold. The next thing that you're going to do is make the pocket according to the pattern directions. Bind each raw edge, and then you're going to center that pocket. You're going to iron it. Then you're going to center that pocket on the lower bag body. So it'll be between the two upper bag bodies, and it'll just be centered from side to side and from end to end. The next thing that you want to do is draw a line in the very center. This right here is going to be the bottom of your bag. Then you want to draw a line 2 inches to the right and 2 inches to the left. That is the lower edge of the pocket, so that when you put something in your pocket, it doesn't slide to the bottom of the bag. You're going to stitch on those two pocket bottom lines. You're also going to stitch from the top of the pocket to the pocket bottom on each side of each pocket. The next thing that you can do, the bag will have one large pocket. You can split both of them or one of them into two pockets. The way you're going to do that is you're going to stitch a seam down the center of the pocket, but you're going to stitch that from the right side. You'll simply stitch, these are the center two strips of your lower bag body. Simply stitch from the upper bag body down to the line that delineates the bottom of the pocket. Now you can do that on one side or you can do that on two sides. It's up to you. The next step is to sew your side seams. So you're going to fold your bag body in half like this. Now you are going to sew very, very close to that raw edge. So what I like to do is I like to match the bottom of the upper bag body, so that little seam right there, if you can match that, and pin it. And these flower pins are wonderful for that. And you also want to make sure that the fold at the bottom runs right along that line. Stitch very close to this edge. You only want to catch your fabric in your stitching. So if your machine allows you to position your needle to the far right, do that so that your presser foot can ride right along your binding and your needle will only be stitching the very edge of the bag. You'll want to stitch that seam twice, and I'll show you what that will look like. Here's one that's done, and you can see my stitching is very, very close to the edge of the binding on the side, all the way down. You'll do that on both sides and stitch that seam twice. The next thing that you're going to do is square off the bottom of the bag. Let me just move that over there. So to do that, you're going to pinch the bottom of the bag, and you want to make sure that your side seam matches that line that you've drawn in the middle of the bottom. So when you pinch it, make sure that this side seam matches that. So you're just going to pinch it together right here. I usually sew across this triangle at the beginning of the 1, 2, 3, 4th tube, and I will sew from this seam to this seam right at the beginning of that 4th tube. That creates a triangle at the bottom of the bag. It's called squaring off the bottom. So you'll notice that I've got it on both sides here. You'll take those triangles, and because we didn't stitch past the bottom of the pocket, these edges are open, and you'll simply tuck those triangles right in like that to finish off the inside of the bag. Now I'm going to pull the other bag over one more time and show you what that looks like. So to open it up, your triangles are hidden underneath the bottom of the bag. Next step is to sew your binding on. So I am just going to pull the binding down like this. And to sew the binding on, what you're going to do is, first of all, you're going to trim the binding. Now this is a very wide binding, it's 6 inches wide. You're going to trim the binding so that it exactly fits around the top of your bag. You'll sew the short ends together so that it's, you want to have it be a very tight fit around the bag. Then you're going to pin the binding on so that the raw edges match the top of this upper zigzag stitching. So it's down, normally you would match your raw edges to the top of the bag, but in this case you're going to match the raw edges to the top of that first set of zigzag stitching. Pin it on, and then you're going to, so pin it on all the way around so that the raw edges match the top of that zigzag stitching. And then you're going to sew 1/4 of an inch away from the top of your binding. So 1/4 inch down from the raw edge of your binding. Sew that on all the way around. Now you will need a free arm to do this part of your bag, and the free arm is a way that you can stitch all the way around in a circle. It will allow the other side of the bag to slide underneath your sewing machine. So once you've done that, you will flip the binding to the outside and also turn your bag right side out. Once you've done that, you're going to do some channel stitching on top of your binding. The first stitching that you want to do is you want to pull the binding tight all the way over, and you want to stitch all the way around the bag very close to the folded edge. The next thing is you'll stitch very close to the top, about 1/4 inch in. You'll stitch in the middle. You'll stitch in the middle of these 2 stitching lines, and then stitch one more line in the middle of the top and the middle stitching line. So right there, it creates a little channel, gives it a nice little decorative touch. And then your binding is all done. You're almost done with the bag. To finish up, you'll just need to add your handles and the closure if you want to, and some buttons and a magnetic button, and I will show you that in the next video.